listening to The Gender Rebels.
I'm Kathleen, a cis woman and ally.
And I'm Faith, a trans woman.
Gender Rebels is a question and answer podcast that explores life outside the gender binary.
A big thanks to our Patreon supporters.
If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/genderrebels. Hey everyone, I'm Kath.
And I'm Faith.
Faith, do we have any new patrons to thank?
Oh my gosh, we do. We have Kelly S.
Thank you, Kelly S. And also we have Chad D.
Thank y'all so much. We love all our patrons, and especially these new two. Thank you guys so much.
Welcome, welcome. Hey, Faith.
Yeah?
We have 2 listener questions.
Oh my gosh, we do.
I can't wait to get to them.
We're kind of doing 2 listener questions today because they're very similar, and I think y'all see that as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So this first one is from Riley.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Riley.
And Riley asks, on a recent episode, Faith mentioned that there are certain things she has been hesitant to do since transitioning, such as ordering a cheesesteak, because some people might see the behavior as unfeminine. Do you think society puts unfair pressure on binary trans folks to uphold gender stereotypes for fear of the perception that you're not putting enough effort into your gender presentation? I'm sure you can glean my opinion based on my gender identity and the way I phrase my question, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts nonetheless.
Oh, Riley, good question.
And then we've got another question from listener Hanna. And Hanna writes, succinctly, my question is, how does one know what to change when transitioning? And not so succinctly, It seems to me like there are both obvious changes and obvious constants, but also some gray areas. Clothing, grooming, name, and pronouns can all help relieve dysphoria and or aid in passing for reasons of personal safety. On the other hand, genuine hobbies, interests, and other preferences that are part of who someone's always been, rather than those maintained as a facade for passing as cis, should stay the same.
Wow.
However, when it comes to other things like matters of behavior, there seems to be a potential for conflict between how one might naturally tend to act and the pressure on the social role that a person is looking to play. For instance, MTFs choosing to be less assertive in conversation or not telling jokes that aren't, quote, feminine. In other words, can transition change your sense of humor? This seems related to the pressure everyone feels on some level to embody the vague collective ideas of one's multiple social roles, gender or otherwise, but trans people have extra baggage from another role they inherited before choosing to live a different one. How have you navigated this in your transition? Is there anything you started doing differently after transitioning only to realize it didn't feel like you?
Wow,
So
Hanna.
Two great questions.
God.
Hannah and Riley, thank you all for your questions.
Hanna, that's so good. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. I don't know where to begin with that.
Well, I think those 2 questions, the reason I kind of want to do them together is because I think they both get to the core of the fact that what do you change when you transition? And is any of that unfairly playing a role?
Interesting.
That you don't necessarily want to play? Because society has decided that that's part of the role. Obviously, you know, people who transition, you keep your core hobbies.
You're you. You're still
definitely
you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still you. The role that you play, I think, does change. Like Riley mentioned, yes. The cheesesteak thing, for those who don't recall that episode, and this is not the Philly cheesesteaks we ordered in Philly. This is I go to like the little deli for lunch sometimes, and the deli's got sandwiches and salads and things like that. And I really feel like being feminine, I should like go with the feminine stereotype of like a salad with dressing on the side, hold the fatty carrots or something. Carrots aren't fatty, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I should be having this super light meal, because that's feminine.
That's what girls
Going in
do.
and ordering a cheesesteak or like a cheeseburger deluxe or something is like...
I believe a meatball parmigiana hero was one of the certainly one of your favorite sandwiches, but also one of the examples from the episode.
It was.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that kind of feels a little cringy, like eating some big fatty, like ordering some big fatty sub. Although on 30 Rock, Liz Lemon, her go-to order is meatball sub with extra bread.
Extra bread, yes.
So I think there is an idea, and I think the reason they put that in 30 Rock is because a character like Liz Lemon is in fact representative of like the way actual women want to live. And someone who is not ashamed of those feelings.
And except for her eating habits, she is a pretty typical feminine, cis straight female.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
hence the comedy. Aren't you glad we broke down the comedy?
I think the comedy is like her honesty about it. Because I remember when I was on OkCupid before we met, I had never watched 30 Rock, and like every woman's profile I saw was like, I'm a total Liz Lemon. So I think that was capturing the fact that society says women are to eat salads. Women don't want salads. They want cheesesteaks, and they want meatball subs, and they want, fried mozzarella sticks.
But there are women who do eat salads.
Yes.
Who don't like... Yes, there's people out there, men, women, everything in between, who like salads and get salads. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about the people who get salads because they feel they need to perform their gender.
Yes.
Or for whatever reason, they feel the need to not. Maybe they're overweight and they feel the need to perform. I've heard this in the fat pride community.
Yeah.
That you always have to appear to be trying. There's always this pressure. You always have to have some excuse or some reason, or talk about your workout or talk about your diet. You never get to just be an overweight person.
Yeah.
And again, of course, there are people who buck that trend and are happy with their bodies despite the significant disadvantages in our culture to being overweight. But there are people who just want to avoid the bullshit, and so they eat the salads or talk about keto or talk about their exercise because that is required of overweight people. So it could be the same sort of thing. It's just, I'm just going to do this so I can avoid the bullshit.
Yeah.
But you're not being true to yourself. You are performing your gender, or you are performing what the quote-unquote good overweight person would do.
And I think we all perform to a certain extent.
Of course.
And I think trans people are going to perform too. I think, like what Hanna says is like, are you going to change certain aspects of how you interact with people? Yes, definitely. I definitely, like Hanna says, it's like not being as assertive in conversations, not always popping up with an opinion.
Have you worked on that?
Yeah,
Has that changed? Okay.
I also think that's just, I've met some really obnoxious, loudmouth guys who just, the only thing they do in conversations is wait for their turn to speak.
Oh yeah, I know him.
And as soon as they get their whatever story someone is telling, they just need to wait so they can tell their better story. Guys like that. So I really tried even before transition. I don't want to say people's names, but
Kevin, Keith, Rich, Andy, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Ricardo B.
But the fact of the matter is that I've known guys like that, and I kind of didn't like that behavior from them, so I really tried to work on that behavior myself. So there are certainly times that I try to be less assertive, or try to not always throw that story in, or be a better listener. I'm very bad at being pleasant all the time, which is the way that women are socialized. And I am cognizant of that, and I've tried to be better about it. The idea of like, have a smile on your face all the time, and no matter what happens, be pleasant.
It's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think that's a healthy way.
No.
For society to tell women to behave, but I do live as a woman in society, and so I try to perform that.
It sure benefits society that women are willing to do that.
Yes.
Or I shouldn't say willing, compelled to do that. And again, obviously, there are women who defy that. There are women who don't even perceive that. That's fine. We're talking about our perceptions and what we go along with and what we don't go along with. Yeah.
Sense of humor.
How's your sense of humor?
I guess if you tell I think when Hanna mentions like masculine jokes, the idea that like you're going to tell ribald humor, like guys kind of sit around smoking. I assume this happens. It does. I don't know.
I mean,
sit
you
around
used to be in that world. You tell me.
I did, but I never fit in well.
But you
so
saw
the
what
idea
they
of like
did.
smoking cigars at the golf club and just telling sexist jokes, or like locker room humor, and things like that, which I never really participated in because I was bad at being a guy. My sense of humor is like one part Monty Python, one part 1970s and 80s Mad Magazine, Dick DeBartolo. He's queer too. one of my favorite comedy writers, and like first 7 seasons of The Simpsons. That's like that formed the core, and maybe a little bit of Kids in the Hall too. Formed like the core of my sense of humor, which is just weird and out there.
Is there
and
no
like,
core Dave Barry in there?
There might be there's like a little bit of Dave Barry sprinkled
reread
in there.
an old Dave Barry book, and I was like, oh my god, this is where I got it. This is where I get everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think for me it was like those. I think Dick DeBartolo, who's Mad Magazine writer.
There'll be a link
I never
in the
knew
show
he was
notes.
gay until like a year or so ago. And yeah, he was kind of my like his stuff is just so bizarre and witty and weird, and I love it, and I still love it. So
you loved it then, and you love it now.
yeah. So my sense of humor has never been like, let me tell you this sexist joke that is the standard like joke that's been retold 100 times. I tend to just be weird, which is why we're making jokes about Zeppelins and stuff like this on the show, and not being like, here, let me set up this knock knock joke for you. So
or another boner joke.
Yeah.
Or another women be shopping joke. I guess what we're talking about right now is shitty comedy versus
shitty comedy.
good comedy.
I guess that's our opinion, but like
Yeah.
I think also that's just sort of the way my humor's always worked. Tina Fey, to go back to that, talked about how most of the women she worked with like to do like weird language humor, and I think a lot of my stuff comes from that, or also just surreal stuff thrown in. You and I work together well because I think we have the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I think we were just so weird and out there that our humor is hardly gendered. But it must have.
That's the really good question. I mean, what it sounds like to me, you're answering to the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you didn't change your sense of humor when you transitioned because your sense of humor when you were pretending to be a guy was one of the things you were really bad at with pretending to be a guy.
Yeah, with guys.
Like
I guess with guy humor.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else guys do other than sports and tell sexist jokes. Work on cars? I don't know. Like, whatever performative male stuff that you had to do, you weren't so great at it.
I was bad at that.
Yeah.
Male culture, as it were, especially relationships between men, are highly competitive. That's something I never liked.
Often, not always.
I hated that. Even on like some game forums and stuff I'll go to, it's like I see that and I'm like, ugh, unsubscribe.
Do you think all guys are like that? Like clergy and preschool teachers and stuff?
I think to an extent there is like one-upmanship, and I don't find that pleasant. So I was happy to get rid of that. But
Not to say women don't do that. I'm going to jump in with little caveats here and there as they occur to me. You guys know we're not talking about all people all the time.
Yeah. And so we're talking about the binary, like Riley mentions.
Yes.
So to get to Riley's question, or for Hannah's question, it's like, do we perform differently? I think absolutely. Is that always healthy? No, because I think we should have more flexibility in our gender roles. Women can be construction workers. Women can be anything masculine.
Obviously, yeah. Surgeons, marine biologists, oil rig engineers. Yeah, obviously women can be any of these things.
And I think men can. I think we would be better served if men could enjoy traditionally feminine things.
Yeah.
Men do enjoy that shit, and they just don't talk about it. And women were allowed to enjoy more traditional masculine things without diminishing who they are. And that's actually something that I'm really happy that traditional gender roles are kind of breaking down a little bit in our society, because it does afford each of us more individual freedom. Hey, Republicans, you're for individual freedom. Support this.
Yeah.
But I do think that, to get to Riley's question, that there is some pressure on binary trans folks, and that being someone who is FTM or MTF rather than someone who's agender or non-binary,
demi-girl, demi-boy,
or someone who's like gender flux or something like that. I think there is pressure on those binary trans folks to perform at the extreme-ish end of, masculine or feminine, depending on how they're transitioning. I know, for instance, that prettier trans women are taken more seriously. More feminine trans women are taken more seriously. And this is by society at large. I completely disagree with this.
And I'm sure it's the same for the guys.
But
out
if you're
there.
if you're a 6'5" hulking chick and you transitioned and used to be Bob and now you're Brenda, and
it'll be harder for people.
It's going to be harder.
And harder for you, and that's not fair.
It is.
That's the way it is right now.
Exactly. So I think there's this like catch-22 of, you push yourself, let's say, like in my case, ultra feminine, and you like dresses and makeup and pretty hair and stuff like that. And you're like, and people are like, people in the trans community can be like, you're, just feeding into the stereotype of gender, of binary gender.
You're a female impersonator.
Yeah. Or you don't go far enough and you're very kind of butch. And as a trans woman.
Other people too.
And then people are like, you're not trying hard enough. You're making us look bad. And
is there anything you do that is more extreme feminine than you think you would actually be comfortable doing if you didn't have to worry about safety or passing or something?
I probably, wearing makeup every day. I enjoy makeup. I think it's fun. I really don't leave the house without makeup, except on weekends when I'm feeling really lazy. So I would, it'd be great to not have to put on the clothes.
But you do like it, though.
I do like it, but I don't like it all the time.
I remember when you were a guy and you hated shaving so much. You hated it. You hated it. You never shaved on the weekends, but you had to do it, so you did. Like, I
still don't shave on the weekends. You just can't see the hair as much because of so much laser.
Yes.
I still don't like shaving. Quite frankly, I just posted a blog thing about how what's more onerous, electrolysis on your face or shaving every day. I decided shaving every day. I'm taking a break from my facial electrolysis. But I do think that...
But I don't get the vibe from you that you hate makeup.
No, but it
is an extra step.
It is an extra step, and it would be nice to just be able to, like, be fine without it. That's my own comfort. I enjoy girly shit. I'm not gonna... But I also enjoy stuff that I think is considered somewhat traditional masculine. I like video games. I like reading about World War II and watching Band of Brothers and stuff. Like, so I do enjoy some traditionally masculine stuff.
You thought about enlisting in the military?
I did. No, not enlisting. Signing up to be an officer.
Yes.
That's different.
Again, for those of you who are listening and freaking out right now, I know women play video games and enlist in the military. I freaking know. I know. We're talking about traditional perceptions.
Yes.
Go on.
So I do some traditionally masculine behaviors. I love Star Wars, and not to say that there's girls out there who don't, but these are kind of more traditionally masculine things, and I don't want to stop that. I don't want to give that up.
But you also don't want to give up cheesesteaks and meatball parm.
I don't, but
you do want to give up some weight.
I also want to give up some weight, which is again me performing, femininity. So that's something we perform. I think we all perform in different ways. We perform differently. We're a different person in front of our parents than we are at the office, than we are with our friends. And
that's true. Yeah, that's I think I remember hearing critiques about that. There's actually some documentary about the gay voice, and they're like, your voice sometimes, if you're among a bunch of gay people, I'm sure they were talking to white cis male gay people, you get the gay voice more surrounded by gay people and less when you're not, and that's actually a survival mechanism. That's actually it's been studied extensively. It's a really cool sociological phenomenon, is how you talk among one group versus how you talk among another. And that's the same for all behavior. There's how you dress and how you act and how you sit and how you walk. It's different at work. It's different around your folks. It's different around your friends. It's different when you're alone. Maybe a little tiny bit, but these are different situations, and you have different motivations in all of those situations.
Yeah.
So Clothes, grooming, name, and pronouns all help relieve dysphoria and or aid in passing for reasons of personal safety. On the other hand, hobbies, interests, and other preferences that are part of who someone has always been, your career, your job, instead of those being maintained as a facade for passing, those stay the same. But then it's like, what else is in there? Hannah, this was such a good question. Wow. So your sense of humor didn't change because it never was masculine in the first place.
What is a feminine sense of humor? I'm curious because I don't really think of it. I had to kind of struggle to think of what's masculine humor. I think masculine humor is put downs a lot of the time. And so feminine humor is kind of...
I mean, see, I hate to make any kind of general statement.
Me too.
My initial thought was, well, there's slightly fewer rape jokes in feminine humor. But there's not. Sarah Silverman makes rape jokes. I mean, it's throughout this whole episode where I've been saying hashtag not all men, hashtag not all women, that goes double for comedy. Because you would act more like the other gender if it's going to get you a laugh.
Yeah.
That's actually comedy fuel. So it's kind of hard to say. Short answer, Hannah, I would say your sense of humor doesn't change.
No,
when
I
you
don't
transition.
think it does.
And your sense of humor, it's so unique. It's so weird. It's so particular to each person, unless you're a total blank slate who just adapts to whatever humor of the group they're in at the moment.
I think if your humor is like, if you are doing what I would consider very traditional locker room style masculine humor, which I think does involve put downs a lot of the time, I think a put down in our society coming from a feminine person is much harsher. And so I do think that would be perceived differently. I don't agree with that. I think we really shouldn't be putting each other down as a sense of humor, but
there's giving you a hard time. There's busting your
balls.
Yeah.
Breaking your balls.
Yeah. I'm just busting your chops.
Yeah, but I do think for guys that's like more standard, whereas like for women I think it's less. Again, traditionally, we're going to throw that out a lot in this episode. I think that ultimately, there are rules that society has decided, and that I disagree with, on like what is masculine, what is feminine. I do think that there is a lot of pressure for trans people, binary trans people, who say, I want to transition. I was assigned male at birth. I want to transition to female, or I was assigned female at birth. I want to transition to male. To be
quite clearly, plainly, unambiguously,
yes,
the right gender.
Because otherwise, is that confusing to you, poor cis people?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, also, you don't want to get misgendered.
You don't.
So I see all these genderqueer types. I saw them at the conference. I see them around campus. Like, I respect that a lot because I know how they're choosing to present does make it harder for them, does increase the risk of getting misgendered or getting hostility. Like, you could wear a skirt once in a while, maybe grow your hair out, Beth. Or like Kevin, most of the guys don't wear eyeliner, and it's just kind of weird. Like they are being themselves, which is so great, is so awesome. And they do that fully aware. I'm sure a bunch of you listening right now, fully aware that will make your life harder. And good for you. Good on you. But a lot of what Riley is talking about, there's like pressure to be very clearly masculine or very clearly feminine. And in a lot of cases, that means hyper masculine or hyper feminine. So that's not great.
That's not. But I think...
How do we fix it? Is it just flood the world with NBs and hope people catch on that it's not a big deal?
Honestly, I'm a Gen Xer. Kat's a Gen Xer too. And God bless you millennials, because you're just...
Thanks for doing all the work, you guys.
You're gonna break down the gender binary, and you're gonna make America socialist. It's gonna be fantastic.
We'll vote for you. Please do all that. We're just gonna sit back and watch the world burn, though.
Because we're Gen X. That's what we do.
We march, we vote, we call our senators.
We do. Yes.
We donate tiny amounts of cash.
The idea that people are born every year. The idea that generations are these solid blocks with singular identities is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like the idea that I'm a millennial. I'm Gen X because I'm 80, but someone born in 81 is a millennial. We're so...
Is that the cutoff?
So it generally is. I've
Wasn't
read it
there
that way.
Gen Y for a while?
Gen Y is millennials.
Is millennials?
And then now people are talking about Gen Z. Like we just skipped Y.
So confused.
Yeah. Anywho, it's a generations are a dumb concept because people are born every day. It makes it very easy to stereotype people the same way gender does.
Exactly.
So we need to break down these gender barriers.
In conclusion,
we need to break down this idea of traditional of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a man, because I think ultimately the idea is you need to be happy as yourself. And it sucks that society makes that harder. And society says, well, to be happy, you need to fit into this box.
Yes, this is what men do. This is what women do. Which are you? Prove it.
Yeah. So hopefully we can start to break down those boxes, add more boxes, bigger boxes, crazier boxes sideways and stuff, all kinds of shit.
Triangle boxes.
Yeah.
Egg cartons.
So that would be nice. In the meantime, I think no, transition doesn't change your sense of humor, and yes, there's too much pressure on binary trans people to live up to these gender stereotypes.
Absolutely.
So we need you, gender rebels, to keep rebelling.
Keep rebelling. Make noise. Talk about your experience. Start a podcast. Comment online. Write articles. Blog. We need to make noise. You need to make noise. We need to make noise. If you want help making noise, we will help you make noise. We will amplify something. Send us questions. Send us thoughts. But this is the only way to get that idea out there. Yeah. And sad but true, we have to repeat it over and over and over. Non-binary is a thing. People can transition and not be hyper-feminine, hyper-masculine. We just have to get those ideas out there. Those of you who are out there not adhering so strictly to the gender binary, do it loud and proud. We love it. That's the only way to start to address this. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen.
Be who you are and make society catch up. Don't punish yourself to try to fit into society's boxes. Make society work for you. And that's something we're all doing together.
As long as you're safe, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Hannah, Riley, you guys, wow. Awesome questions. I love it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for writing. Thanks for listening. Thanks for rebelling. Thanks for co-hosting.
Yes. And if you're interested in becoming a patron and you're able to do that and you'd like to support the show, we are actually sending out, we're going to probably start stuffing envelopes this weekend.
Yep.
That's the new, should we tell them?
Do it.
The new Gender Rebels pill boxes.
Pills listed for days of the week. They're jumbo-sized pill boxes. They say Gender Rebels on them. It is a great way to store your HRT or your antidepressants or your allergy meds or your asthma meds or whatever conditions you are grappling with every single day. The Gender Rebels pill box.
Yeah.
Pill boxes are going out to our donors of $3 or more a month. Everyone else is going to get a bunch of other fun goodies.
Stickers.
Coasters.
And magnets. So we're going to start stuffing envelopes this weekend. If you haven't, patrons, send us address updates if you have them. And if you haven't become a patron yet and you feel like it and you can afford it, go to patreon.com/genderrebels.
It's Christmas in February or maybe March, depending on when it arrives.
We call it February-Marchmas. All right, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Bye. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this episode and want to help us keep making more great content, go to patreon.com/genderrebels.
We have many different levels of support and lots of great rewards,
including drinks with the Gender Rebels at Stonewall.
Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. That makes it easier for other people to find us.
And send your questions to questions@genderrebels.com or find us on Twitter @The Gender Rebels.
Music for The Gender Rebels is by Jasper the Colossal. Follow the link down below or download them on iTunes today.
And for all our episodes, visit genderrebels.com.
Gender Rebels is a
Come back, Sync!
production, copyright 2019. All rights reserved.
And to all you gender rebels out there, keep rebelling.
Bye.
Bye. Dumb concept because people are born every day.
But how else do you get to
look down? It makes it
get off the coffee table.
It makes it very easy to stereotype people the same way.